Do, do, do. Ah, that's good coffee. You should be having your coffee too. Come on in here. Bum, 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 bum. Do, do, do. Bum, 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 bum. Good to know. Too much information there. Yes, I'm back in Hawaii. So Christine and I decided to come back to exactly the same place we were a month ago because we liked it so much. So let's talk about due process after the guns are seized. So you're seeing heads exploding all over because President Trump said he preferred to do the due process after seizing the guns in only the specific context that there's a situation where there's a clear immediate danger, such as the Florida shooter who had a clear record of wanting to be a school shooter, had a gun, had lots of complaints from the parents and other people. So in a case like that, very specific kind of situation, he favored doing what he said, doing the due process second. Now, of course, this caused all of the literal thinking dumb people to explode because they said, wait a minute, you can never do due process second. But here, because due process is, a fundamental right, and, you can't put that off and seize somebody's guns first. And so there are a few clarifications that need to be made here. First of all, it's only in that situation where the police, for example, see a clear and immediate danger. Second, due process just means following a fair legal process. So if we pass a law, let's say a bipartisan gun bill, that says under these conditions, the police should do the following procedures, and they can take a gun away temporarily until, let's say, the court or whatever the process is decides whether it could be given back. Now, under that situation, if the law, a new law, says the police can do this under the conditions of, maybe they've checked some things or they've done some kind of process, under that situation, that is due process. In other words, the police would be doing what the law tells them to do. So if you pass a law that says you can take the gun away first and then make sure that things are okay before you give it back, if the police follow that process, that's due process, because they're just following the law, and the law applies to everyone. So arguing about whether due process comes second is, first of all, nonsense, because if the law allows it, and the police follow the process that the law allows, that's due process, because that's a fair process that applies to everybody. Now, the other thing that we need to keep in mind here is that the law has, for as long as I've known, always allowed the police to act first when there's a public safety issue. So, for example, if police arrest somebody and hold them prior to a bail hearing, they have taken away that person's rights, and that person has not been subject to a trial or a judge opinion or anything else. It's just the police said there's an immediate reason to put this person in jail. Yeah, so they can detain somebody, essentially taking away their rights, temporarily when there's a risk to the public good. That's the normal way the process works. So when President Trump, speaking in his usual casual, non-legal style, said, I like doing the due process second, all he was really saying is don't wait for the long part to happen, put the tourniquet on, take away the risk to the public, which is very much an inconvenience to the person who lost their right, but the greater good allows that individuals have some temporary inconvenience. It is a temporary inconvenience to have a gun taken away under the specific circumstances that there is real evidence that there's a real risk. Only under that condition, the temporary inconvenience of losing access to a specific firearm for a short period of time is not the biggest risk in the world compared to the public good. So this whole argument about whether the president is in favor of overturning the Constitution and making due process second is a total fake news, phony argument, because that is the normal way we do things. The normal way the world works is first you mitigate an immediate risk, and then you put it through the process to see if that was an overreach or not. It's just normal. Let's take another example. Let's say Child Protective Services get credible reports from a number of places that the parents are abusing the kids every single day, and they're beating them up and the kids are starving. I'm pretty sure that Child Protective Custody can take the kids immediately and then let the legal system figure out if that was an overreach. It's the normal way things are done. So to say that this is the one situation in which the normal process doesn't need to be followed is not much of an argument. The president is suggesting the most normal process, which is you take care of the immediate danger and then you work through the system to make sure you didn't overreach. Which amendment is CPS under? What's CPS? Remind me what CPS is. Oh, Child Protective Custody. So yes, I'm not making a case that the Child Protective Custody is a constitutional, I'm not saying it's a constitutional service. I'm saying that the normal way society has preferred to operate forever is that you take away the immediate risk and then you figure out what, how to deal with it in the long run. So the people who say you're using pretzel logic and five-star gymnastic thinking, do you notice you always leave out the reasons? I got in a mini debate with somebody who believes they're a constitutional scholar on Twitter who kept telling me that I was wrong and I should take courses in constitutional law or else I can't have this conversation. And on 3 or 4 separate occasions, I tweeted back and said, just give me a reason I'm wrong. Just a summary, just a hint, any kind of a reason you can fit into a tweet. And nothing came back. It just came back, well, you need a forum to discuss this and the Magna Carta. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I understand that stuff. All I need is a reason why I'm wrong, that it's a bad idea to take away an immediate risk and then work out the details later, if that's the normal way we've been doing everything for decades. Hundreds of years, in fact. It's misguided because it sets a dangerous precedent. Let me tell you what else sets a dangerous precedent. You know what else sets a dangerous precedent? Everything. Every law. Every single law we make is a dangerous precedent because somebody could take that law and say, well, we got that law, let's extend it to even more stuff. Every single law sets a dangerous precedent. Everything we make illegal risks getting closer to make other stuff illegal. It is the worst irrational argument in the world to say, well, you can't do this because that's a slippery slope, because every single law is a slippery slope. You either decide to have laws or you don't. And you either decide that you can change them, you can modify them, you can tweak them, or you never can. But if you can change laws, and that is the process allows us to change laws, every time we do it, it's a slippery slope. Are all slopes equally slippery? Well, what we can't tell is the risk of various slopes. Nobody is good enough to assess accurately the risk of every law and what is the risk that it will go further. But certainly, even though some things are a larger risk than other things, you still don't want slippery slopes on the little stuff. You wouldn't want to say, for example, we passed a law that says it's illegal to litter in the street, and then have somebody say, well, if we got away with that, let's make it illegal to litter in your own home. All right? So there's nothing that can't become a slippery slope that you wouldn't want to be. Are you any good at tennis? I don't play tennis anymore. I gave up tennis because all that repetitive motion was bad for the body. Yes, slippery slopes are not persuasive. That is correct. Because everything is a slippery slope. The reason that slippery slopes are not persuasive is because it's a universal truth. Everything's a slippery slope.